Hello class, tonight's lesson is on segment addition, congruent, and midpoint. Let's start with the first slide. For a point to be between 2 points, the points must be collinear. Hopefully you remember what collinear means. It means that the points must lie on the same line. For example, point B is between A and C on this line because they lie on the same line. In this example, F is not between because it does not lie on the same line. So you just have to know that if they're collinear, it's okay to say that the point is between the other 2 points. Why do we need this? Because this. If the point B does lie between, let's say, A and C, then AB plus BC, sorry about that, AB plus BC will equal the entire length AC. Let's pretend AC is a football field, and we say the running back ran AB, which was 70 yards. How many more yards would he have? 30 more yards. That's all segment addition is really saying. 2 small segments make up 1 big segment as long as the points lie on the same line. Please pause the video, take a second, and read this problem and try it yourself. Hopefully you pause the video and you'll see that from Lubbock to Tulsa is 380 miles. And from Tulsa to St. Louis is 360 miles. So from Lubbock to St. Louis is 740 miles total. Very easy concept, segment addition. Next, we're going to talk about congruent segments. The only way you would know segments are congruent is if I tell you they're congruent or I give you a symbol, these tick marks on a line. If you see tick marks, then you know that they are congruent. Line segments that have the same length are called congruent segments. So AB is equal to CD in length. If they do not have a bar above it, then it's talking about the length of the segment. And if we're talking about length, we're talking about numbers. For example, if they were 6 centimeters, you would say 6 centimeters is equal to 6 centimeters. So therefore, it's okay to use an equal sign when talking about lengths. When you're talking about the actual segment, remember this should be read segment AB is congruent to segment CD, which is saying is congruent to or is equal in length. Okay, so if you use the symbols, then you will use the congruent symbol. If you're talking about length, you will not. Please pause the video, take a second, and complete this problem on your note sheet. Okay, hopefully you tried it without this hint. Here's how you should have plotted your points. J should have been at negative 3, 4, K at 2, 4. L should be at 1, 3, and M should be at 1, comma, negative 2. Hopefully you remember that X's are on the horizontal axis and the Y's are on the vertical axis, and you move X first, then Y. Mathematically, when we're finding the distance of something, remember that it's the absolute value. So from J to K, since it's horizontal, we're only going to look at the X values. So that's negative 3 and 2. And we're subtracting them because one's technically negative and one's positive. So it's 2 minus negative 3, which is, you add the opposite, so that's 5. And the absolute value of 5 is 5. When we do the horizontal change in LM, we're only going to do the Y values. So that's 3 and -2. So we're going to subtract them, and it's -2 minus 3, or you could do 3 minus -2. Wouldn't matter. And here you would get -5, but the absolute value of -5 is 5. So hopefully you understand that if you're finding length of something or distance, that it has to be positive. You can't drive a negative distance. Mathematically, we could say segment JK and segment LM have the same lengths. Therefore, mathematically, segment JK is congruent to segment LM. You could say JK without the bars equal to LM, but please note I have determined whether they are congruent. So in your answer, you want to focus on JK and LM as segments. The last couple slides talk about the midpoint of a segment. The midpoint of a segment is a point that divides a segment into two congruent segments. So if you had this picture, what do you think you could tell me about it? If you know that M is in the middle of AB, let's pretend it's a football field and it's 100 yards from A to B, where would M be? Correct, the middle of the field at the 50-yard line. So what could I say? I could say that M is the midpoint of AB and that AM is congruent to MB, or AM is equal in length to MB. These tick marks would also tell me right away that AM is congruent to MB, or that these are equal in length. So those tick marks tell you right away. Without those tick marks, and without me telling you M is a midpoint, never assume that it's in the middle. It could be 49 yards and 51 yards. You know, M could be at that location. So unless I tell you, never assume. Please pause the video. Try this problem. This is supposed to be a picture of a skateboard. So hopefully if you look at this picture, T is the midpoint of XY. I tell you in the directions, therefore it's okay to put tick marks on. Mathematically, if T is at the midpoint and I tell you that XT is 39.9, then you should know that TY is 39.9. And if they're both 39.9, we add them together to find the entire length, which would be 79.8 centimeters. Last problem has a little algebra in it, so if you haven't done any algebra in a while, just try your best. Pause this video, try the problem first, and then come back to my work. Okay, welcome back. Let's talk about this. Okay. Use the fact that VM equals MW. So that must be true because M is a midpoint. How do I know? I tell you in the directions, or they already have tick marks, so you should know that they are congruent. If they're congruent, then I can set up my equation. 4x minus 1 equals 3x plus 3. If this is true, then we just need to solve algebraically. Two ways. Way I'm going to do it is I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Hold on, sorry. I just want to move this up. Okay, I'm just going to delete it. Alright, sorry about that. I just want you to be able to see it. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So if I do that, minus 3x, then I'm going to get 4x minus 3x is x minus 1 equals 3. I'm going to add over and I'm going to get x is 4. That is great. X is 4. But if you read this problem, it says find the length. And x equals something is not finding the actual length. So last thing I need to do is take x and plug it back into VM. So if x is 4, then I'm going to take 4 times 4, which is 16, minus 1, and that's 15. So VM is 15. You might also want to put it in here and make sure you get 15, because if these are not equal, then you might have messed up algebraically. So 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 3 is 15. Just be careful of wording. This did just ask for VM, which is this length. Maybe on a test or quiz I asked for VW. So you plug it back in, you do get 15 and 15, but then the entire length is 30. So just be careful. Make sure you're reading and making sure you're finding the right answer. Hopefully now you understand segment addition, that two small pieces add up to one. You understand congruence and the symbols between them, and you understand a little bit about a midpoint. See you tomorrow. Thank you.